Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and we're asking Rabbi Yosef Vinistki a second time for part 2. It was so interesting, we had such a good response of his show about the end of times, about the prophecies of Ezekiel, that we decided, well, he has more thoughts, and therefore we brought him out again. So welcome. Shalom, Yosef.
Thank you, Rabbi Simon.
All right, so maybe if people didn't see the first show,
right.
Just maybe give a few minute review,
Like a recap.
Okay. Of what we were talking about, and then tell us some new news.
An update.
An update on the prophecy.
On the Gog and Magog update. So anyway, hello, Shalom. So as Rabbi Simon just pointed out, the first time I was here, I did a bit of a review of a certain book. This is the book. The book is called Sefer Mamlechus Kohanim, or in English that would be the book of the Kingdom of Priests, right? The Jewish people refer to in the Bible. Can I say Chumash?
It translates. So you could say it.
It's referred. Jewish people are referred to biblically as the Kingdom of Priests, which makes sense because we were selected at Mount Sinai for a specific mission and whatnot. But basically, this book was written by somebody by the name of Moshe David Valley, who was a Kabbalist. He lived in Italy in the 18th century. The book itself was written, I just found out, the book itself was written around the year 1745, or it was completed. He was a medical doctor. He went to medical school in a town called Padua, which is in the north of Italy. He was, for a time, he was a student of a very, very famous Kabbalist, Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal. So for a time he was his student, for a different time he was his teacher, and apparently he left a lot of Kabbalistic writings in manuscript form. Most of it has now been translated, and I believe this is one of a few works of his that has been not translated but published rather. Yeah, I don't know if any of what he wrote has been translated into English or any other language. So anyway, the focus of this book is a commentary on the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel was one of the prophets of the Bible, and what he's known for is his visions of the Merkava, of the chariot, right? And so that has a lot of Kabbalistic implications and whatnot, but specifically the chapter 38 in the book of Ezekiel deals with what's called Gog and Magog, or Gog and Magog, as we would say in English. So what that is Gog and Magog sort of represents a concept of this ruler or nation that sort of embodies evil, and historically it's been thought of as sort of like a moving feast. So at a certain point in the past, people thought that the Roman Empire was the Gog and Magog. Later on, it was maybe the Mongols. Later on, it was probably Napoleon. I remember reading that. And in the more recent times, it was thought, the Nazi Germany. And maybe Stalinist Russia were also thought of as this embodiment of this Gog and Magog. So what's interesting is that Magog is traditionally thought of as the land of Gog, but in Hebrew the particle mem can mean also from. So this is Gog and somebody that comes from Gog, and specifically chapter 38. Is very descriptive in its sort of like depiction of the last day, the days before the Messiah comes, and a specific. And he uses the reason this sort of piqued my curiosity was because he specifically mentions the ruler of Moscow, and I'll just briefly read some of the passages. I mean, it's
No,
a big
this
book.
was written again, just to underscore, this was written when,
1745.
so you're talking over,
We're
I mean,
talking
almost
200.
the-
Yeah, this is the when the Alter Rebbe.
yeah, the
was born.
250 years ago, so again, it's not like few years ago.
No,
or
not at all. Not at
New
all.
age,
Yeah,
that's, I
yeah,
just want to
yeah.
underscore
Right,
that
right.
for the people.
Absolutely,
You're
yeah.
talking about a prophecy that, you know, the
Exactly.
situation is today.
Exactly, yeah,
250
yeah.
years
and
ago.
you know, I was blown away when I was reading this, and you probably will be too, because some of the reference that he makes and some of the places and countries and whatnot that he mentions are just uncanny. It's if you're reading the headlines. So anyway, I'll just briefly go through some of these passages. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Obviously, we don't have the time, but he begins saying that at the end of times, which is a typical reference to the times right before Mashiach, that the Almighty will sort of compel or take Mashiach by force, and will give him the power to destroy the brain of the serpent. So the serpent in this regard is the serpent of the story with Adam and Eve. Why specifically the serpent? Serpent has this connotation of evil, but the gematria or the numerology of serpent, which the Hebrew for that is Nachash, is the same as Mashiach, 358. So in a sort of like a cosmic metaphysical sense, this is the opposite of Mashiach. This is sort of like this anti-God consciousness, if you will. So he goes on to say that the Mashiach will be able to destroy the mind, the moyach, which is very interesting because, and I'll explain why. Because outwardly, whoever that Nachash or the representative of that serpent is, outwardly he looks intact, but the psyche, the mindset, is completely gone, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. But what is astonishing to me, what I saw, and I got to give credit to somebody that I don't know, who had posted a portion of this book on a WhatsApp group, and that I became very curious as to where he had gotten it from. It took me a while to figure out, I Googled it and I found the book, and then I actually bought the book. But anyway, just to continue with the storyline, so he identifies this Rabbi Valley, that ruler, that potential Gog and Magog, as Nosi Roish Meshech V'Tuval. This is the head of Meshech in Tuval, which are lands that are commonly thought that are situated within Russia. Where exactly in Russia, I don't know. But get this, Shelibi Oimerli, that my heart tells me, my intuition tells me, Shehu, the Kaisar of Muscovy. And this is astounding because just literally a few days ago, Putin himself spoke. He gave an interview to somebody, to a reporter, and he said that, he was ranting and raving against the West and the weapons that they're supplying and whatnot. And the remarkable thing that he said was, they really have in mind to break us up into people from the Ural Mountains, from Muscovy. He actually mentioned.
Really?
He mentioned it. I heard. I know Russian. I heard him say it in Russian, and that was, to me, it's a most amazing thing. For the leader of a country to even contemplate and express this idea that possibly the whole thing may just implode or fragment is beyond belief. I mean, I can't think of the leader of any country, United States, France. I mean, a lot of the countries in the world are made up of different ethnicities, they're not all uniform. Certainly America is not, and certainly many other countries are not, but for for the leader of such a major power to express that fear, it was actually, it came across as being very fearful. And we'll see why this ties in with this idea of the end of this Nachash, of the serpent, which is identified with specifically with the north. There's a pasuk, there's a verse in the Bible that says that the evil comes from the north. For some reason, north has that association with evil, and this quote from Putin, just literally a few days ago, this is one of the stories I wanted to mention, ties in very nicely with a prophecy that was enunciated by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And it was actually dictated to one of his disciples, and in the course of that sikha, or the presentation, he said that in regards to Mashiach, that in the end, all that's going to be left of, and the language is astounding, of Rusia Gdoila. Rusia Gdoila in Hebrew translates as Great Russia.
The Greater
Russia, which is what they call themselves, like Great Britain. I mean, it's not that great anymore, but once upon a time it was a huge colonial power. But they refer to themselves as the Great Russians, and the Ukrainians as the Little Russians or Lesser Russians, which is, to me, sounds like a put down, but. But historically this has been the case, and he says in the course of that prophecy that towards the end of days, all that's going to be left of Rusia Gedola will be a small hill with a small tree. So, and the fact that Putin would mention the fact that he has this fear of his country fragmenting, just astounding. I mean, obviously, I don't think he knows anything about Rabbi Nachman of Breslov or that prophecy, but there's a saying that the hearts of rulers are in the hands of God. In other words, whatever they do, seemingly they seem to operate as free agents, but the truth is they're sort of like guided and moved and dictated to by the higher power. So anyway, that's interesting. So he goes on to say, in very graphic detail about the conflict, and what he mentions is that the Gog and Magog are even though they're related, but they're opposite ideologically. Basoid. Soid means fundamentally opposed, and it makes sense because Ukraine is a kind of a democracy, very flawed, very it's a work in progress, as opposed to Russia, which is basically dictatorship. I mean, as we speak, just you read the headlines, they're throwing masses of soldiers one after another at Ukrainian positions, and this is just really mass slaughter in the making, and they don't seem to care, because this is their way of fighting a war. This is their tactic that they're sort of is carrying over from the First World War and the Second World War and whatnot. And it's just this quest. In other words, what Rabbi Valley mentions in the beginning about the ruler of Muscovy, where his mind is gone, is literally is in plain sight. We can see the actions and the mindset. And just they're not rational, not rational. Nobody fights a war like that. You don't throw thousands of troops.
Well, I think Stalin did that in World War II.
Right,
Russian.
Maybe it's a combination of this Russian style of fighting. Maybe that's all they really can deal with. But just the fact that this is, and even within these within the country, there's a lot of sentiment saying that it's a total disaster.
It's getting a little bit more Western.
Right,
You know,
right.
they were Western learned in the Russia, so they're.
Right. And I've,
Yeah, it's more like a Russian kind of way of doing it. They
right,
just
people,
don't-
yeah, people that have grown up after the perestroika and the collapse of the Soviet Union, they're more Western oriented, and the fortunate fact is, a lot of them have left. In other words, they don't have a tradition of civil disobedience or, you know, rising up or protesting. It's not really part of their you know, mindset. So you know, there's something that they don't like, they just leave. They're not gonna, they won't go fight City Hall. It's just not, it's not part of their sort of, you know, view of how things should, you know, should work. I mean, if you don't like something, you leave. You don't try to change the system, because, I mean, eventually if things get really bad, I mean, you know, there's a possibility of them fragmenting, because Russia is made up of a bunch of different nationalities. It's not just the ethnic Russians. They're only like, maybe like 60, 70%, maybe less. There's a lot of Asian nationalities. There's a lot of resentment growing there, because a lot of the losses that Russians have suffered come from those places, not necessarily from like Moscow and Leningrad and whatnot. So I just wanted to throw in a few more quotes in the story, and we have time.
Yeah, keep
Okay.
rolling. It's interesting, keep rolling.
And so I'll just translate real quick. So Rabbi Valley points out that the fact that this war is taking place, it is almost against his will. It's as if Putin doesn't really want it, but he's being compelled. It's not from him. Why is that? Elo Mimenu Yisborach, it's from God. Shemutzia Baal Korche. Baal Korche means forcibly, you know, being compelled. Yishagias Man Li'avid Min Ha'olam, because the time has come for them, for him, or for whatever he embodies or symbolizes, to be gone, to be eliminated from the world. And then El that God who Shemivia. Okay. Oh, this is a, you know, I don't want to say cute, but kind of like interesting point. So, as everybody knows, a lot of the Russian equipment have big Z's on them. The
Right.
letter Z. So, you know, and I should know, the letter Z does not exist in the Russian alphabet.
Really? I didn't
Does
know
not
that.
exist. No,
I didn't know
it's from the Latin alphabet. Russian has, I think, 33 letters. That Z is not one of them. So, Rabbi Valley points out that even though right now, cosmically, that Nachash, that serpent, or the Gog, is gone, still, just like a snake, when you smash out its head, right, it's the tail is still moving. The tail can be very strong, and then that tail can cause a lot of damage. How do you say tail in Hebrew? Zanav. Zanav.
Good.
So Zanav begins with the sound Z, right? So how would you write it out in English? Z-A and A-V. And to me, it's just remarkable. I mean, I don't know how nobody else. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but you know, somebody should have picked up on it, that this Z. I mean, even the you know, when you look at it, the way you write it out, it looks like a squiggle, like a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that they would put that on their tanks and personnel carriers and planes and whatnot and cars, it's uncanny. It is just it just blows my mind. I mean, that this would even be the case. I mean, like I said, there's 33 letters in the Russian alphabet. They could have picked any one of those. They had to be specifically the letter Z. Anyway, he identifies that the after effects. In other words, so what it is the spirit that Kabbalistically or metaphysically that anti-God, anti-messianic Moshiach consciousness is gone, but just like a tsunami, right, or an earthquake, there's these aftershocks. All these events that kind of like, you know, follow in its wake. In other words, it's not like it's you know, it's done, it's gone, and you know, forget about it. There's still ripple effects. That's what that's to me that's what he's trying to convey. Sheachai Shalhem who not only that, again he emphasized the fact that this is emanating from the north. And get this is totally astounding. He now goes on to enumerate who else is involved with this Gog and Magog. You know, it's not just let's say the Russians. There are other powers that are in the picture. V'hine kvar yidua shemagog u'moshek v'tzuvel hem mibnei Yofes. So we know that Noah had 3 sons, right? Yofes, Shem, and Ham, right? So traditionally, it's thought of that Yafes is thought of as the progenitor of the Europeans, and Ham is probably Africa, maybe Asia, and Shem is the Semitic people. You know, Semites. Shem, that's that's us. Elo she's boraru imahem gam kol haroim mibnei Ham. He will also be aided, and some of the nations that are identified with Ham are going to come to his defense. Ubir hagodol aklali shukol ra v'yaolam misakin, and this is all being done in order to misakin, to rectify the world, to get rid of the ra. It's possible to tie the Bnei Ham, the children of Ham, to maybe the Iranians and the Persians, which has another connotation, because the archangel of Persia, Paras, is what's called Dubiel. Dov is bear, and El is God, right? So like Raphael, Daniel. So what else is known to be symbolic of a bear is Russia. And now we're seeing close cooperation between Dubiel of Persia and that his cousin. Hashlemus, and here we go. Hashlemus vizeh soit Paras Kush Put Atem. Here we go. Paras. What's Paras? Persia.
Iran today.
Yeah, Iran, right? Kush Put. It can variously be thought of as maybe either the Arabs, perhaps India, maybe even China, because they're still buying their oil, and they're in a way they're financing the war machine. If the oil money had stopped, they wouldn't be able to go on. Not just that. Who else is involved? On the flip side, Goimer, Bikol Agafeh. Agafeh means wings. So Goimer is traditionally identified with Germany, right? So, and here we go. He enumerates who else is involved. Again, my intuition tells me Shegoimer ubeis to Ragma hem Yoshvi Germania. So Germany, the Yoshvi Polonia, which is Poland. Shekulam opposite. This time they're opposite the Tzofim, the north. And not just that, he also goes on to enumerate places such as Scotia. Scotia sounds like Scotland, right? Which is England. Svetia, I guess it's Sweden. Denmark, which is Denmark. Norvegia, in other words, you basically Scandinavian countries. Yeah, he outlines the camps. There's the camp of the Gog and Magog, with all the attendant players, such as Paras, Persia, and so forth. And there's sort of like the opposite side of that, which is Germany, Poland, and so forth, England, who are on the side of Ukraine. And he continues to say that Miyomim Radmim Tifkut, that at the end of days I will exercise my judgment. Hashem is Borach Orich Apoy. So basically saying that God kind of like holds his anger up until a certain point, and then he just lets it out. Yomim Ravim Ash Istimalim Seisa Veriva es Picodose Liavdu Min Hoilam. In other words, basically what this is saying is that I'm going to wait till the end, and he doesn't say if they're going to repent or not, but I'm going to let my anger out. And here, and hear this, that Hashem, who wants to speed up, accelerate the downfall of the Russia, Kidei Limaher Tikkun Shel Olam, in order to speed up the rectification of the entire world. Who mikafitz loy as derech be'elivi v'atzlocha. So in the beginning, he will give him hatzlocha. Yeah, he will. That will. I mean, they only had a hatzlocha for the first maybe month, and then they kind of started collapsing. Yeah.
A few more minutes.
Okay. וכבר ידעו שהשם יזברך הוא כשמגזיר את ישראל על אדמוסם, הנה הוא מסלק מהם כל הקליפות שדומים. So basically, Kabbalistically, there's such a concept as a klipa. The klipa means shell, right?
Literally a shell,
Yeah,
but
shell.
it just refers to evil.
Evil or anti-God consciousness. So this Gog and Magog, is sort of like, he seems to draw parallels between that and this, and the klipa or the evil that we're kind of like seeing, seemingly based on all this, in the process of being eliminated. So I'll just finish up by saying that this is one more quote from this and in a story, and we're done. Shekrei milchomas Gog and Magog he agomeres es tikun agomur sheyeh bevodim shel harishonim. So as a result of this war, this is not just Russia, but somehow it's going to have a ripple effect on all evil powers. We can think of a lot, of a few right at this point, but somehow it's not going to stop with them. We're in the process. We're seeing the final downfall of all evil. But specifically, this is centered seemingly on Russia. And so forth. And so even though they plan evil, their evil plans are not gonna come to fruition, and they will be either rectified or eliminated or whatnot. And just to end off, there's a story that was told. I'll just read it. This is I have a blog. I can put a link in if you like. So this is from Rabbi Grossman in Israel, the famous Rabbi Grossman who runs yeshivas.
Yeah, big yeshivas.
Yeah, is a very famous individual, very noble type. So he spoke in Israel a few weeks before the invasion, about a year ago, and this is what he said. I guess, at the gathering for Brengen, when I was a child, a certain person told my father a story which has stuck in my head ever since. So what's the story? So that person who spoke, one time he had visited the Rebbe of Stolin, Rabbi Yisrael Perlow, who lived 1868 to 1921, who said to those that were present, I guess, while he was visiting, do you know what will happen before the arrival of Mashiach? They said, no, we don't. He said like this: two roosters will fight each other, and the third rooster will come and strike both. We're talking, what is it, cockfight, right? The roosters, right? So who are these roosters? So later on he goes, but the Jewish people, thanks to their faith in Hashem, will survive. So people asked him what he was talking about, and who were those roosters. He said, the two roosters are America and Russia. So now it's not really so much Ukraine, it's really NATO. NATO against Russia, and really NATO like disguised as Ukraine, and they're really operating at what, 1% of their total power. But it's really, all the weaponry. If not for those weapons, there wouldn't be Ukraine today. Obviously. So it's in a sense it's a war. It's a proxy war between America and Russia. But interestingly enough, the third rooster is China. We know just recently, in just the past few weeks, how China is trying to pick sides, kind of like maneuvering itself to gain advantage. They have it's an old thing. They have their sights on the huge chunks of Russian land, going back centuries. So they're very much involved in at least in that sense. And there's a quote from Ishayahu, from Isaiah, that they represent the serpent that coils, who will kill the monster that is in the sea. I guess the monster is Leviathan, we're not sure, Leviathan. So the commentators explain that these three beings, the serpent, the monster, and the dragon, represent the three nations who will be defeated in the war of Gog and Magog, which the Radak, what was his full name? Radak, I don't know. Calls Kimchi. Thank you. The Day of Vengeance. So the comments so there's some comments on that. So Rashi says that this is back in when Rashi lived. So this was Pharaoh or the king of Assyria. Then later on he added it was probably maybe it's the Shmuel, maybe it's the Arabs, or India. Interesting. And then commentators explain that this also refers to the war of Gog and Magog, until divine justice avenges the blood of Israel, shed by the peoples of the world. So I just wanted to know that the Rebbe spoke about, I think at least one occasion, he was asked about Gog and Magog. He did not rule it out, but he did say that that whatever is going to be will not affect the Jewish people.
Excellent.
So,
On that good note,
on that positive note,
positive note that we should only know from peace and good things, and Mashiach should be here. It's enough fighting
Amen,
already,
amen, yeah.
and now should we able to. Thank you very much, Yosef Vinistki, for coming on and
Absolutely.
enlightening us about the end of days. Thank you very much.